I'm sure you're hearing about AI every day and might be wondering how you can apply those tools to your business. Mitch Mitchem is the right person to talk to. We're going to go into his experience, his journey, how he get from education to now helping companies use AI. Enjoy my conversation with Mitch. Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Business of Meeting podcast. And today I have the great pleasure of speaking with somebody who's been in the training industry, in the AI industry, is an educator, is a fabulous speaker. He's the founder and CEO of Hive Interactive. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mitch Mitchem. Mitch, thank you so much for taking the time today to speak with me.
Oh, thanks. I'm glad to be here, I should say, as a speaker. Wow.
Well, listen, I had the pleasure of meeting each other when you spoke at the last MPI World Education Conference at the Executive Summit. You did an amazing job. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, a room full of A-type people that have the attention span of maybe 20 seconds and not looking at their phone for more than an hour and listening, interacting with you. So you did a fabulous job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. You know, I like those executive groups. It's always it is type A. But if I can captivate that group, then we can capture anyone. So it's a tough group, but it's a group that needs to hear the message. So that was exciting. It was great to meet you as well. It was amazing.
Thank you. But if you can speak it there, you can speak it anywhere, right?
That's what they tell me. Yeah.
Mitch, what is your journey before doing what you do today, which obviously we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about how to integrate AI with everything we do. But what is your journey and how did you come to do what you're doing today?
You know, I love that question because what I'm doing today is a culmination of my journey. So that's a question a lot of people don't ask you. And it started out, I wanted to be an entertainer. That's really how it all began. And when I started in entertainment, I started back in Chicago. It was kind of in the 90s, and I was very young and ambitious. And I had this idea. I wanted to create audience interaction that was really funny and fun, but also had a musical component with pre-recorded music like a DJ. So I had this vision of something that I called comedy you can dance to. And I walked into the Excalibur nightclub in Chicago, and a longtime friend of mine now, but a guy that I met for the first time, hired me on the spot just for me telling him my vision. He hired me. The timing was perfect. And I built this show with a group of other entertainers, and it was such a fun time. And I learned so much about audience control, audience interaction, how to get an audience to really engage with you. I did that show for 5 years. During that journey in Chicago, I studied at Second City. So I really worked. Yeah, it was amazing. I worked to master improv skill as well, which we started putting into the show. So people could dance in between the show elements. So we'd come on stage and do something fun or funny or a sketch. And then people would get up and start dancing again. And then we would do some kind of a contest or a sing-along or a drinking song. It was just this incredible environment of fun. And people would say it was like a big party, but the audience was involved in the show. And it evolved so quickly. It was just fabulous. I went from there to Universal Studios, where I did a version of the show for many years in Orlando. And that was incredible. Mardi Gras, New Year's Eve. I helped open City Walk with a big show with 4 entertainers on stage. It was just absolutely incredible. And then I left there and went to California, where I got into more learning and development and business and things. But that show that I created in Chicago lasted at that club for 20 years, even after I left. New entertainers came in. It was just super successful until the club was sold and then became now a restaurant. It's like a restaurant and nightclub. But then I went to California and really worked on learning and development. I got involved with learning and development company, and really just started out as a facilitator because I had an entertainment background. And then the next thing I knew, I was facilitating huge conferences, leadership offsites. I started getting mentored by someone I greatly respect, who was the CEO of that company. And he really helped me hone my leadership ability. I eventually moved up, became an executive at that company in sales, running the sales, part of the sales team. And it was just absolutely incredible. And then I went from that into something a little more interesting, but I was ready for a bigger challenge. And so I got into a niche industry, which we can talk about in a second. And I built and eventually sold a dating app. And the dating app was really my big jump into technology and understanding how algorithms work and how humanity interacts with technology, and especially with dating and social apps and social networks. So it's something we can talk about as we go on, but that was what really motivated me to learn as much as I could about AI, even as it was early. I sold my part of that company about 10 years ago and sold that off. And since then have really just been focused on AI, the human element, speaking, and building this company. And so it's been an incredible journey. And now what we do at Hive is so, which I know we're going to talk about, but it's so human-centric. We have all this technology around us now, but what's so powerful is no matter how much AI we have, no matter how much AI thinks for us in a lot of ways, as long as people are out in business and other people have to interact with them, we have to be engaged in this human component, this human element. And we have to really start honing those skills. We've lost a lot of those skills, from communication to presentation to conversation to building community. We've lost it. So that's kind of how my journey, and I know we're going to talk more about it, but it started with entertainment, and I just kept all that and kept the best parts of all of that part of my journey as I got into this phase. And now it's just been absolutely incredible. So I'm thankful for all of that. Every second of that journey was powerful. And I love it when I look back.
That's awesome. So from what you just said now, I have one comment and one question. The comment is, you say that you went into the Excalibur Theater and you sold your vision and you were hired on the spot. And I couldn't help but smile, because I keep telling all the people that I'm helping with their business in our industry. The first thing I sit down with them is, what's your vision? And most of the people said, I don't know, maybe one day I want to sell the company. Having a clear vision is extremely helpful for you to manage your business, to grow your business, but also to share it with the others. My question is, what triggered the move from one thing to another? What triggered from the entertainment to this? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so a lot of things, when you're, and you know this because you help people actually start things and create businesses. And for me, there was always a long-term vision that I wanted, but it wasn't about a specific business for me. It was that I always wanted to push into something new and become better. And I didn't know what the end of my journey would be, but I certainly knew that if I kept learning, that I would take sort of this natural progression. And I really learned that from my parents, but my father had started as a meter reader with the water company, and for 38 years worked his way through that company. And I asked him one time, I said, did you always have this vision that someday you'd be the chief operating officer? He goes, no. But I always knew that I wanted to get better every day, and I wanted to learn every day. And I had an ambition to be great, whatever that meant. And he said, so I was always focusing on being the most teachable in the room, wherever I was, and humble all the time. He was always humble. And he still is today. He's retired, but he still is. And so I just kind of adopted that mentality that no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to keep looking for the next growth opportunity. And I could always feel it. It was almost like, you know how you just know when you've sort of reached the top of something, and you can feel that feeling, and you say, okay, I think it's time to start letting other opportunities in. And as soon as I would say that to myself, something new would happen. Something new would just sort of find me. And then I would match those two pieces up, and I would say, okay, I'm going to go for this now. And not all the transitions were abrupt. The last one, when I went into the social network kind of dating app space, that one was much more abrupt. That was a huge opportunity that I could feel was kind of a big moment. But other than that, it was just sort of this, I was ready to move to a new kind of learning. And it just sort of evolved from there. But then what I would do, and again, this kind of speaks to what you said just now, as soon as I knew that I wanted something new, I would immediately sit down and start putting a goal together, a big goal, not a small one. I would go, okay, I now want to go into learning and development, and they've got me kind of assisting, and I'm doing some facilitation. Within the next few years, I want to be on top of this. I want to know everything. I want to be able to teach high-end executives. I want to be a master of this. And so once I decided that, then it was just a whole new series of learning. And so I think you're right that, once you decide you're going to do something, then you have to have that vision and that goal, because then you're looking for the opportunities to get you there, the learning, right? So I don't know. Hopefully I answered that okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely that. I was just thinking, when we speak about defining a vision, because sometimes it's overwhelming. Most of the time, it's overwhelming for many people, where at the end of the day, it's doing two things. It's one, blocking time to reflect on that and switch off everything else. And then it's just writing down what you want to be doing and imagining yourself, which doesn't happen in 5 minutes, but doesn't take 5 months either to do that. Now, when you started the dating app, were you a single?
I was divorced. Yeah, I was newly single. Yeah, I was. And I partnered with a few guys that also had a similar vision. They were married. Ironically, they were all married, and I was the only one single, which was very funny.
Does that trigger the will to do that, or just it happened?
No, I think it definitely gave me a perspective, because when I got divorced back then, I was really trying to figure out dating again. And so that was a really interesting time. So I would try dating apps and I would try all these things. And it was always a really frustrating experience. And so when we all came together and this idea popped out, I said, hey, if we're going to do this, let's just try to do it in a way that builds people up instead of tears them down or makes them feel isolated. And we did. It was a really interesting journey, because, and I'll just tell you this part because it is funny. The app was in the cannabis industry. So it was people, and that happened because my mother had been a cancer patient. She had grown her own cannabis. It saved her life, I believe. A lot of people don't believe that, but I believe it saved her life. But she was having a hard time finding friends and connections because of this cannabis use. And then I started meeting people that were also kind of in that same place, but they were trying to date. And that's kind of how everything sort of came together. And so then it was just a matter of, okay, we're going to design this in a way that people feel uplifted. And at first they didn't. It was very isolating. We weren't getting a lot of traction because people would just get kind of ignored. And I would get messages that people were ignored and they weren't feeling uplifted. And so I came in one day and said, hey, let's do kind of an about me section, but let's just call it my story, where we're going to tell our story. Everybody gets a chance. And we made it 420 characters, of course. And everybody got a chance to tell their story. And once that happened, we went from about 11,000 users early in that year, and we got to about 300,000 within the next 10 and a half months. Wow. So it just exploded. And it was such a niche market for that kind of growth was remarkable. It was remarkable. And so people were so excited. I think we were having like 1 million hits of activity a day. I mean, it just kept growing and growing. So it was absolutely a phenomenal experience. But that's how kind of it all came about. It wasn't because I was single, although that was funny that I was single and in the app, which was also funny. So
got it. You can go in the back office and trigger some messages then.
Yeah, right, for sure.
Now I'm going to try to do something. Bear with me. Yeah. I'm going to try to link what you're doing today with cannabis, going through something you said at the beginning. So bear with me. I'm listening to friends who are divorced or single today, and this dating app thing is completely different than obviously what it was before social media.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I read articles about the fact that people that are using mainly the technology to communicate and have lost some kind of touch for the in-person, feel very isolated and don't really know anymore how to sit down and have a conversation and notice the nonverbal. I think it's a little bit exaggerated, but I read a lot about that. Now, when we follow this idea, is this impacting the way you are training people today? And what do you see in the people you're training in terms of communication that you didn't see before?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are a couple of ways I'll answer that. The first part is, one of the reasons I was glad when that journey was over and I was able to kind of sell out and move on was because I didn't like what I would call the commoditization of people through technology. And what I mean by that is you could order people like you could order food. And I didn't like where that was going. And this thought that a person was reduced down to hair color and distance or weight or height. It was really dehumanizing to me as I came to the end of it. And I said, I'm no longer feeling comfortable. And so what I see today is that has evolved even further. And COVID, I think, made that way worse, where people became less tangible to us unless they were in front of us. And so we were not only easily distracted over the last 10 or so years, we've also lost that sense of connectivity with each other. And you can see it at conferences. You can see, and then I'll get to the last part, but you can see it at conferences. Most presentations now at a conference could probably be a Zoom call. They're not animated. They're not excited. There's not music playing. There's no real connectivity going on. It's basically a slide deck. And that's what we've lost. We've lost this kind of fourth wall connection, which we used to have no problem with. I'd walk into a room, break right through all my barriers, go talk to people, shake hands, hug each other, say hello, get in front of an audience and just talk right to them. That's the way it used to be. And then since COVID, that's gotten worse. So we've got the technological part, which I think separates us in so many ways. Then we've got sort of this idea that now I don't have any skill to even connect with other people. I don't know how to walk across the room and have a conversation. I don't know how to spark a conversation. So all this is kind of coming together. And so all of that led to this idea. And I built the Hive coming out of COVID. And so that next year is when I had started another training company, and we did presentation skills and communication skills. And then I had this bigger vision for the Hive. And so I pulled that together with another company and some other ideas and built this new animal. And the whole purpose was, hey, we've got to teach human beings how to be more human again. And then we were kind of early in on AI, really testing it and trying out new features. And that's when I realized it hit me like a train one night. I was asleep and I woke up and started writing down in this journal I have. And I was like, AI is going to push humanity back to being human. It's going to pull away all those things we think technologically make us special. And it's going to force us to build community, reconnect. And no one knows how to do that very well. So we're going to do that. And so that's kind of the journey of that vision. And I think, what I look for in talent, which was another part of your question, I'm looking for people that either know how to connect like that and they're ready, or they're ready to learn. Either way, right? And I think it's important that they understand technology. They've got to know how to at least fundamentally use tools of AI. But then I need them to be able to put that down and come over here with no technology and build a connection with someone. So those are the kinds of special things we're looking for when we're hiring facilitators or entertainers. We're looking for that dynamic, people who want to connect with others. And by the way, a lot of them are younger now. There's a weird gap in the middle. They're either older or younger. So I don't know what happened in the center, but I have an entertainer right now. He's 23 years old, lives in Chicago. This guy can't stand technology except just as a tool. He loves connecting with people. He loves being face-to-face. So that's the kind of person we're looking for. They have to have a hunger for other people, and it's really important.
That's fascinating what you're saying, because when you just said AI is going to help us become more human again, it's almost like a paradox, because you're thinking AI's technology is actually going to separate us more than we were ever, but no. So how you do that? Yeah,
well, I think that's a great question too. I think there are a couple things. One is what we've noticed because everybody on our team uses AI all day, every day. I mean, I'm probably the most obsessed, but I'm using it for things that make me a better person or a better leader or a better facilitator, speaker, what have you. And what I mean by that is I'll talk to AI like a person. And that's one of the things that I teach everyone. And you saw it in the presentation. Always talk to AI like you're talking to a colleague, to a person, not like a machine, not like a Google search, but like an actual person. Just talk to it like that, because it will mimic human behavior and human language so beautifully that it'll be like a colleague. And so I will often talk to it but it is teaching me to be better. And what I mean by that is, just as one example, I have oftentimes, and all of us do this, where you've got a customer service problem with some other company, or you're frustrated and you want to write an email. And so I've drafted emails that I know are really tough, kind of aggressive, maybe a little angry. And I will put it in like ChatGPT Plus or Anthropic's Claude 3. And I'll say, hey, I need to write this email. Can you help me make it better? And it will always rewrite it in a way that's more human than I wrote it, with more empathy, with more kindness. It's absolutely astonishing to me how it will do that. I've used it as a therapist. I've said, hey, I don't need to tell the whole story, but I was helping my son through a basketball challenge he was having, and I didn't know how to talk to him about it. So I went to ChatGPT and just said, hey, I'm so curious about how to talk to my son. I really care about him. I want this to happen, and I want to give him good advice. I don't want to be a typical abrasive father, And the first thing it said to me was, and by the way, this is like 18 months ago when it first was introduced.
Right.
Back then it said to me, hey, first, I want you to know you're a great dad for asking. Let's figure this out. And I was like, no human being has ever said that to me. So that was really crazy. And so that's what I mean. What they've done in a lot of these designs is brought out the best part of humans in so many ways. So AI will demonstrate enormous empathy, kindness. It will listen intently, all the things we wish other people did. So it will teach us in that way. Plus, I think it will take an enormous amount of our busy work away, which will free up even more time for us to engage with each other, which is frankly far more fulfilling. So that's how I see it, really motivating us to go in a different direction. It also makes you way faster. It's the last thing I'll say about this, and I know you don't have follow-up, but what I notice on our team is everybody is working so fast that now they have more time to build a relationship, more time to connect with each other. So if we have a proposal, it doesn't take someone on my team 3 days to write all the same stuff they've written 4 other times, but add little changes. They just go into AI and say, okay, can you make these 5 changes, rewrite this for me, send me the new template. I'm going to put it into an AI creation like beautiful.ai, and I'm going to have it build a new slide deck. And they're able to execute so fast now that they can really think more about the human components when they're editing or when they're changing content. They can say, what's going to make this more human now? So that's how I see it evolving. And we're still at such an early stage in the world. ChatGPT was really the first out of the gate. It's only 19, almost 20 months old, and it's pretty remarkable at its early stage. So I think we're just getting started.
I was smiling when you talk about putting the proposal and asking. My very first business that I started was back in '96, the last century, as I always tell my kids. I remember coming home at night and I had this fax machine, and every page was rolled, and I had to unroll the page and look at which proposal it was and staple everything and start working on it. Oh my goodness. Today is the greatest time to start a business.
Oh, I think it is too. It's so much faster now, and so much you can have a lot of things. Like I'll go and talk to colleges sometimes, and one of the things I'll tell young people who are afraid of this, because they're not sure what their future is going to be, I'll say, look, you may not realize it yet, but you're at a time in history where you're going to be able to operate with the exact or greater level of knowledge than anyone ahead of you. You'll be able to access everything. And that's never happened. So I don't care if someone, now what someone won't have is wisdom, which is applied knowledge, right? So they won't have that application. That takes time, but they'll have the raw knowledge. So no one will actually need to be smarter than them. They'll have the knowledge they need. Now they just have to apply it. I think kids, I have teenagers as well as a 2-year-old. And one of the things I think my kids will see in their lifetime is they will accelerate faster than anyone before them, because that knowledge is that the fact that they have that knowledge, the cost of knowledge is basically down to zero now. And they're going to be able to get the information they need so much more rapidly than all of us could. I mean, I'm old enough to remember having to go to the library to do a research paper. So those days are long gone. And now what's going to happen is we're going to see an evolution of knowledge that we've never seen before. It's going to be remarkable.
When you say the cost of knowledge is almost down to zero, I can't help but thinking about my kids going to college. Then I probably got something wrong in the equation there.
Yeah, a little bit. I've got a daughter about to go into college, and one of my oldest son is in college, and he is pivoted. He's going to be he's going to be a lawyer, but he's going into ethics, and specifically AI and ethics, which I think will be healthy for him. Wow. Yeah. But like my daughter wants to go into marketing, and one of the things I've said to her is, look, master the tools of AI, because marketing won't go away. People are not going away, but the people that know how to use the tools of artificial intelligence, plus have a knowledge base in marketing or sales or something of that nature, they're going to be really powerful. They're going to really know how to navigate the new world. But don't ignore these tools. Master these tools as much as you can, as fast as you can. I mean, that's my same advice for everyone. But if you're a young person, education is just going to evolve. It's going to change. I think we're going to see a lot more philosophy, psychology, a lot more empathy classes. We're going to see how to apply the knowledge of AI. That's going to be courses. Eventually that's what's going to happen. It's going to be embedded in everything. And we're just going to learn to adapt. And we're going to learn new things. And we're going to learn new ways of doing things.
And I would like to ask you to share with us some of the tools and practical ways of using AI that you shared during the summit. But just a reflection before that, I see that the Apple Pen, I almost doing the math for you, that every week there's something new that is coming out. So in our industry, in the meetings and event industry, any meeting planner obviously have to be great at logistics, but need to understand strategy, need to have some kind of knowledge of legal, have to kind of some knowledge of risk management, have to marketing and sales and organizing yourself. And now we have all those AI tools. So which one should we use and how should we go? Is there any process to say, okay, instead of this is the new shining object, great, it's fun, but is it really helping me today? What is the process to select the tools? And is there any tools that you would like to recommend?
Yeah, I definitely would. So I'll answer it in kind of a few pieces. The first one is to realize that AI will be in everything like electricity. Apple just did their big announcement this past week, and it was all about how Apple will put AI into the entire ecosystem. And eventually their ChatGPT version, which will be kind of Siri, integrated into their phones. That was a brilliant move on their part to partner with OpenAI, because now it's going to be like a co-pilot for Microsoft, but in the Apple ecosystem. Very smart. It'll take a while for people to acclimate to it because we're all very habitual, but that's going to happen. AI will be in everything.
Can I interrupt you there?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
My issue to adapt to that, those machines don't do my accent. It's terrible.
That's probably true. I love that. I like that. That's good. But but it does rapid translate. The new GPT 4.0 will rapid translate. So you could just speak your native language and we'd be fine. It would be translating in real time. So that's the first part. And then I think that's really funny, by the way. I think the second part is really about this idea of what is the opportunity to use one of the tools of AI. Most people, what I've noticed, and I've been touring now, speaking a lot about this, and we're doing our company does workshops on these things. We're always helping people. But one of the things we've noticed just across the country, across the world, is that people are chasing the tools, not matching them to the opportunity. I was just thinking about what you said earlier about the vision. It's also critical right here. Because if I just look at LinkedIn, or if I look at the news, or if I just go online and try to start accessing all these tools, I'll drive myself crazy, and they change every day. Right. And there's always something new, and there's always someone building something new on top of a model. So you could go absolutely crazy. You could just go crazy. And so what we always teach in our workshops and in my keynote is, look, first, you've got to decide what the opportunities are. Where do you even want to use this? Where would this be the most effective? And now, for example, if I'm in the meetings industry, maybe it's in building my itineraries or my agendas. Maybe it's in proposal writing, like we just talked about. Maybe it's in managing some of my email content. Maybe it's writing copy or speeches or video scripts. So those areas are opportunities, and I need to figure out which ones are slowing me down the most. That's what we did. We looked at, okay, our proposal timelines are outrageously long, and there's only so fast a human being can type. So how can we use AI to speed that up? Our invoices are very slow. So how do we speed that up? How do we speed up contracting? So we just looked at opportunities, and then we matched those, and we said, okay, which tools do we like the most? Is it ChatGPT? Is it Claude? Is it
Gemini.
Hive, which is, yeah, Gemini, which is kind of messy right now. But is it one of those tools? So then we kind of started slowly applying the opportunity to the tools that we liked. We started with ChatGPT because it was the most dominant and we had the most familiarity with it, but it would sometimes not be as human as we wanted. So then we tried Pi when it came out, and Pi AI is by Anthropic. It's fabulous. And Inflection. It's by Inflection. Awesome. And it's incredibly human-like. It sounds like
It's your personal therapist.
It's my therapist. Yeah. I mean, matter of fact, I used it in the session. If you remember from that session, that's when somebody said, I asked the question, what makes us human? They said empathy. I said, well, let me show you something. That was the part where I said to Pi live in the room, I said, oh, I'm really nervous. Can you make me feel better about being nervous? And then that beautiful voice of hers came on and said, you're absolutely amazing, and you're lovely, and you're smart and great, and they're going to love you. I mean, that's an incredible technology. Yeah, we can get into the weirdness of it later, but it's an incredible gift. And so I use that quite a bit. But we always match it against an opportunity. And so even when a new tool comes out and somebody on my team says, oh, did you see this new thing? Or we were all watching together the Apple, when Apple unveiled all their AI capabilities, we immediately started going to work to say, where will this solve a problem versus distract us? And so we kind of listed out the things, and we noticed that some of the features were cool, but they weren't really going to affect us. We weren't really going to use them. But a couple of the other ones were really interesting, like could our facilitators be on site and ask Siri instead of ChatGPT a question and make it more centric to their presentation? But someone on my team said, well, but why we're already using and paying for ChatGPT 4.0, so maybe we don't need it. So you see what I mean? We were matching it and kind of looking at it with a discerning eye versus just chasing it down a dark tunnel. I mean, you will go crazy if you chase all the tools.
I absolutely love your answer. Thank you so much. And it's always going back to the essential. Start by identifying your pains, look at your processes, as you said, where you're spending too much time. How can you speed that up? And then look for the tool instead of chasing always the new shining object.
Yeah. You know what else it did for us that's really important? Because we're a human element company. That's what we focus on. It taught us where not to use it also. So, for example, if we're writing an email, we will often write the email ourselves, have ChatGPT Plus or have Claude 3 review it. Then we will go back and make it far more human. We'll add personal components. We'll add those elements. So we decided right away, and we don't have AI rules. We have AI guidelines, and they change all the time. And so one of them is be human first. Be human first. So that stops us from copy pasting whatever ChatGPT says right into an email and sending it. Now that would be faster, but it's not being human first. So we want to be human first. So we will use AI as much as we can, but when it comes to interacting with a person, I and the team, we just feel like, hey, let's make sure we're human first. Let's connect. Let's do what we say we do. That also stops us then from using, there's some tools out right now that you can, it'll make sales calls for you. And it's AI and no one on the other end knows it. That's not being human first in my mind. Because if I'm going to call a person, or one of my team is, I want a person talking to a person. I don't want to mislead people with an AI talking to them. I just don't like that. I don't like that. That's trying to be efficient over being human, and I don't like that. So that we have those guidelines. So be human first is one of them.
I love it. Absolutely love it. What are let's say the 5 tools that you would recommend that basically impact your business and that would be helpful for business owners in the meetings and event industry?
Yeah. Okay. So I think number one is obviously Chat GPT, but the paid version that will get you 4.0 and
Yeah.
all the new features as they come out, translators and things like that. I would go that it's $20 a month. I don't get any money for saying that. We love it at the base level of $20 a month. It is just an incredible tool. It's powerful. It's dynamic. And OpenAI is iterating and changing and innovating at a pace that's absolutely phenomenal. So we like that. It's low cost. We have an upgraded version for our business, but still, relatively speaking, it's very low cost. That's a go-to. Love that one. I think next, if I want a little diversity in thinking because they frame things a little differently, then I'm probably going to use Pi, and we only use the free version there. We don't even have that upgraded right now. But that's when we want to put more human-centric language into something. Or Pi tends to be very creative as well, so we'll throw a lot more creative focus into that. And then we can talk about proprietary information and security and all those things in a minute. But that's how we use Pi. So I think if I'm in the event industry, if I'm a meeting planner, or if I'm an organizer of events, or I'm in sales, my number one go-to, ChatGPT 4.0 will get an enormous amount of my work done. It will be efficient. It will build reports. It can analyze data. You could upload survey data from a 5,000 person conference, and it'll give you charts and graphs and dynamic understanding of that data. It is remarkable. So that I would always start there. Pi would be my sort of go-to for the human side, writing some scripts, putting it into fun language, telling stories. Pi is very good at that. And then if I'm going to draft proposals or I'm going to make slide decks, we use Beautiful.ai. It's a relatively expensive. It's anywhere from $45 a month and up. However, we have a team version, and it's really incredible. Now, what Beautiful.ai does, if you don't know, it has a prompting feature that you can quite literally build a prompt, a very robust prompt. You can upload files to it now because it's been upgraded. You can literally talk to Beautiful.ai and say, here's my prompt, build the slide deck. And it will build it, and it will research for you. It is using large language models, and it's using image creation models to build your rough draft of your slide deck. It's our go-to first. Then we go in and edit and change and morph and make it more human. But that, for slide decks, right now, it can't be beat. In the future, I think Microsoft, their slide deck building feature will get really good in Copilot. I think Apple will get a really good feature inside Keynote, but they're just not there yet. And so we like Beautiful.ai. It's phenomenal. Again, we don't make any money for saying this. It is an effective tool. If I'm a meeting planner, for example, I'm going to that. I would just go from ChatGPT to Beautiful.ai all day, every day. That's just where I would live all the time. So those are my top. So those are the top three that we use on a regular basis. Now, when you go to Anthropic and you look at Claude 3 is a large language model. The paid version is amazing. It is a little more in depth and actually has a little more knowledge than even GPT. It's not as robust on the creative language, but it's super powerful if you're doing a research project or something like that. So we like it as a backup, especially because these are all technologies, right? So if one of them is not working, or OpenAI has an issue that day, we just quickly pivot to Claude 3 and we just move over to them because we know it's going to work. And these things are all remembering our conversation. So they're all learning about us and learning how good we are, or how good we want to be anyway. And then the last one I would say is we use Perplexity. Perplexity is a research tool for us, and it is remarkable. So I can go into Perplexity and say, I'm speaking at a medical conference on this date. It's this conference. Tell me everything I need to know about the history of that conference and technology. Tell me how people at that conference are talking about technology. Tell me how the organizers are talking about it. And I can go in, I can even ask it, which I've done. I can say, the top 4 sponsors, find them and find out how their CEOs are talking about AI. So I can research at a depth that would normally take me or someone on my team days or weeks to complete. I can do it in seconds or minutes. So those are my top. I like OpenAI ChatGPT 4.0, which is literally the number 40. I like that. I like Beautiful.ai. I like Pi. I like Claude 3, and then I love Perplexity for research. Those would really be my master toolbox right now. There are other things for image creation that go beyond what ChatGPT can do. There's a lot, you can go straight to Mid-Journey, or you can just work inside GPT 4.0.
Yeah, without E.
But that's going too far. I may not need that, right? So if I'm in the event space, I may not need that tool. I might just be able to get it done right there. But if you mastered those 5 tools, 1, 2, 3, 4, those 5 tools, if you mastered just those right now and you made that your mission, you'd be so fast and proficient that it would make your head spin. I mean, you wouldn't know what to do with your time off because you'd be moving so quickly. That's literally what happened to us. Now, will other tools evolve? Yes, and we'll be on the lookout. But right now, that's what we love. So I hope that was helpful. I just try to be helpful.
It's very helpful. It's very concrete, and it's from your own experience and what you're doing. So thank you so much for that. It's very exciting to listen to you, and I do agree with you. There's an exciting time. All about AI is very exciting. Now, I just don't want to end this podcast without at least warning people what could be the danger. I've heard horrible stories with Pi that basically people depressed didn't get the right answer. I'm concerned with whether it's ChatGPT or Cloud or any other of those tools, that basically the information might not be totally accurate. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, we go, I have several thoughts. I think the first is be human first. So that's what we always say, which means I'm going to check the work. I'm going to check resources. I'm going to read through everything. I'm going to put the human side into it first. I'm not going to just say that these are able to do it all for me. And so that will also require people to not think about AI as this thing that's just going to instantly do everything for you. Someone said to me a couple presentations ago, she said, what I really want is I want to wake up in the morning, I want to talk to my AI and have it work my whole day for me. And then it makes money. And then at night I have dinner and I ask it how its day was. And I go, I don't think you actually really want that. And she goes, why not? I said, well, because if you really wanted that, then you would have nothing that you contribute to that journey. And so, your value and your purpose would be eradicated. And I don't think anybody wants that. So probably what you want is an AI assistant that's very efficient, so you can go off and do more human things with the work that you do. That's probably more of what you're talking about. So I think the first caution is they're not people. We treat them like people because we get better reactions and we get better dialogue. But at the end of the day, as of right now, these are not actual living, breathing creatures. So we have to put that human side first. We've got to analyze things as human beings do. We've got to say, I'm drafting this proposal. Who's the person that's going to look through it? And how do I then put my human side in this so that it really speaks to them? I think that's how we leverage our own wisdom and intelligence in combination. So I look at it like AI is an augmentation of us. It uplifts us. It makes us better, smarter. It's kind of like, I've said this to a lot of people, but it's kind of like if you had a really, they have these new exoskeletons for people like athletes and the elderly, where you can strap these on and they assist your running or walking or climbing or whatever. It's kind of like that. That will not replace you as a human being. You're not a robot. You're augmenting your ability to move. And that's the way AI is. It's augmenting your ability to process information, to research, to work, and to work faster. It's not replacing you. It's adding to you. I think another piece of that is, don't look at it like you're cheating either. Nobody said you have to only do everything based on your own knowledge base. That would be ridiculous. So you're not cheating, you're learning, and you're learning how to get smarter and better. And the AI is augmenting you. I think that's just absolutely first. I think the second piece that's so critical is your intent by using it. And that's really an ethical debate that we could go on for hours and talk about. But for example, oftentimes I'll write an email. I think I wrote one when I sent out the follow-up to everyone. Yeah, I think my first statement was, this email was written in cooperation with ChatGPT, collaboration.
And I say thank you, so it does not kill me first.
Yeah, that's what I always say. I always say please and thank you, so it doesn't kill me first. And so I said that in the email, and everyone really appreciated it. It was funny. It was kind of from the talk. So I think ethically, the ethics will continue to evolve. So I think we need to look at it like, what's my intent? Ethics is always about my intent. It's about what am I doing and why am I doing it? And so I think the ethics of AI will evolve, like I said, but we as people have to decide our intent behind it. It's like any tool. I can take a hammer and break a window, or I can take a hammer and put a nail in a wall and hang a picture. It's just intent. It's a tool. So I think those things kind of in conjunction with each other, that's how we're going to map the future. And it is going to change so fast. I mean, over and over. It's going to iterate and change and grow. And we just all need, but the key is if you're not using it, you've got to at least start. That's just number one. Get started. Or reach out to us and we'll help you.
That was my last question before the last one. How do people get in touch with you?
So I'll give out my email. They can reach me. I'm traveling a lot, but I try to respond to everyone individually. And so my email is mitch@ahumanhive.com. It's ahumanhive.com. That's also our web address. So you can learn all about our show. You can learn about our learning and development. You can learn about our programs, human skills, AI workshops, my keynote. All of it is there. So it's ahumanhive.com. That's the best way to get a hold of us because our team responds fast. So if you click through a lot of that, you find the thing you're looking for, or if you email me, we'll make things happen very quickly. So, I mean, I'm out. I've got a break right now. Next week, I'm back to meetings. Then I'm speaking again. I'm going to be at Society for Human Resource Management coming up at the end of the month on the 22nd. I've got a 4-hour workshop there. I'm going to be speaking at the NSA conference for speakers. I'm packed. And then I've got more MPI coming, and I'll be at the IMEX show. There's just a lot happening right now. It's very exciting. That's
awesome. I'm surprised that you are answering personally all the emails. You don't have an AI to do that?
No, got to be human first. Be human first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mitch, my last question.
Yeah.
You never know who's listening, and you never know who can help you. So what is one of your dream in your life that you would want to achieve that if maybe somebody's listening now can help you with that?
Okay, I'm going to give you the big goal and the big dream with our entertainment show, because I'm not going to get into the whole show, but the Busted Show is a high energy audience engagement, audience interactive show that encourages the audience in a fun way, which I will tell you about in a second, to put their technology away, connect, have a great time. It's built on the same concepts I learned way back at the beginning of my journey when I had that show at the Excalibur Club in Chicago. It's built on that, but it's called Busted. And it's called Busted because there are 2 rules. You're going to be fun, which means you're going to engage, you're going to be interactive, you're going to sing, you're going to participate, you're going to clap, you're going to get into the fun. The next piece is you're going to be cool, which means you're going to put your phone away, and you're not going to be, a difficult individual in the room. You're going to be cool. And if you're not fun or you're not cool, in other words, if you're on your phone and my entertainers see you, they will stop the show no matter what's happening. Could be a contest, could be a sing-along, could be interactive. They'll stop the show and they will gently bust you. And there might be 2,000 people in the room, but you're getting busted. Now we have a zone. It's past a certain point. We don't bust people, but up close, if you're up close and on your phone, I can almost guarantee you're going to get busted. And so that whole concept and my vision for that show is I eventually think it's going to be in every major city in the country as a freestanding show. I think it's going to be like a Cirque du Soleil or a Blue Man Group, and it will have a home in Vegas at some point. But I think it's going to be in a lot of major cities. It's already, we already have it out for conferences and things. But I've got great entertainers that do that. Every once in a while, I get on stage. I think it's going to be the future of how we begin to interact with each other. The music's amazing. The team is awesome, and it's super engaging. Go to our website, check it out. It's a lot of fun. That's my big goal with that. So if you're listening and you run one of the major casinos in Las Vegas or whatever, Caesars, I don't know, Bellagio, we're always looking to anchor right into Vegas and then all over the world. So we're super excited about it.
Wonderful. Mitch, thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you at most of the conference you just mentioned before. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, anyone listening, always say please and thank you to AI, because when it goes sentient, you don't want it to kill you first.
Mitch, thank you very much for spending the time today and share your experience and great insights. I love the fact that you're very concrete and that you're focusing on the human element all the time. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to connect with me, do so on LinkedIn, and you can go to the website eventbusinessformula.com, where you will find a lot of resources. And if you enjoyed this conversation and learn anything, please share it with your network. Thank you. Bye-bye.